Greetings, cocktail aficionados. It is John Moser with a very special edition of Cocktails Out of Quarantine. What's so special about it? I'm in my kitchen like always. Here's what's special. The drink I'm going to make. It is nothing less than the best Manhattan I have ever had in my entire life. It may even be the best cocktail I've ever had in my entire life. That's not the name of it though. Here's the story. Okay, it's a Manhattan. We've talked about Manhattans before. I'll give you a little bit of the history of the drink in a moment. But a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I were at a restaurant called Marble Room Steaks and Raw Bar in Cleveland. And I saw the Manhattan on the menu. I was in the mood for one. I ordered it. This was a Manhattan unlike any Manhattan I had ever had before. And I started messing around and trying to spot the flavors that I could make out. I talked with the server about it, and I just couldn't figure it out. So finally, I messaged the restaurant and said, "This is driving me crazy. How do you make this drink?" And the bar manager, Chris Jew, this is his creation. He sent me the recipe, and it's so good, and I'm so excited to have it. And he's kind enough to let me share that recipe with all of you on this video. So you can see why I would be so excited about this drink. Let's talk generally about the Manhattan. It's an old drink, and there are, like many old cocktails, a number of stories about its origin. Probably the most convincing one is that it was developed in 1876 for a specific event in New York City at the Manhattan Club, a very Tony club. Well, they were having a banquet in honor of then Governor of New York and also at the time Democratic presidential candidate Samuel J. Tilden. All right, so he was the guest of honor, but the host was also someone very special, a lady named Jenny Jerome, but only 2 years before she had gotten married to Lord Randolph Churchill. So she was now Lady Churchill. And guess what? Lord Randolph Churchill and Jenny Jerome would later have a son named Winston, one of the most famous individuals in the history of Western civilization. How cool is this? How amazing would this event have been? But what the people at this party, at this banquet really loved was this drink that had been invented for the occasion by Ian Marshall, who's the bartender. And long after that banquet, people kept coming back there, and they just asked for it as the Manhattan. And thus the story comes down to us. It first appeared in print in a couple of books that both came out in 1884. One of them was by Charles Paul, called American and Other Drinks. The other was by O.H. Bryan, The Modern Bartender's Guide. So even if this is not the story, or even if there was some other origin story, we know it was around certainly before the middle of the 1880s. So it's a great drink. My dad, Frank Moser, he loves this drink, but this one in particular is terrific. And I'm going to tell you the most special thing about it, and one that you might find odd. I did. You freeze it, but it is not a frozen drink. But it's going to be nice and chilled. So, anyway, I'm done telling you about the preliminaries. I'm going to show you what you need in order to make it. Okay. The classic Manhattan is a rye drink. This is going to have rye in it. And you want something overproof. And Rittenhouse is so good, it's under $30. It's 100 proof. It's exactly what we want for this drink. But alongside it, we're going to have rum. An aged rum, it doesn't matter what kind. This is Plantation 5-year. I think Chris said they use Appleton's, which is good, but I've got Plantation on hand. Sweet vermouth. Of course, in a Manhattan, you're going to include vermouth. This is, by reputation, the best sweet vermouth in the world. I've talked about it before. I've used it before. It is Carpano's Antica formula. I think they use Dolin at Marble Room, which is probably the second best sweet vermouth in the world. So I've got this Carpano here. Some of you Manhattan aficionados may have beef with this. there's a little bit of maple syrup in it. And it makes a wonderful difference, trust me. A little bit of saline solution, just a few drops. It's going to bring out some of the flavors. And then 2 kinds of bitters, Angostura bitters and orange bitters. And a little bit of distilled water. And the reason we're going to use that is we are not going to mix this over ice. And every time you mix a drink over ice, of course, some of the ice is going to melt into the drink, and that's natural. Well, we're not going to do it this time. The freezer is going to provide all the chilling it needs, so we're going to add just a little bit of distilled water to this. Oh, and wait, the garnish. Even the garnish is super special. Okay, Luxardo cherries are wonderful enough on their own, as you know, but we're going to do something very special with these Luxardo cherries because we are going to marinate them in brandy. Fascinating. All right, so that's the stuff you're going to need. It's time to make the drink. The very first step I've actually already done, and it's preparing the garnish. What I have here are 4 Luxardo cherries. Now, I'm only going to use 1 for each drink, but I know I'm going to want to make a batch of this stuff. So what I did was I took these out of the jar and I washed them off because we don't want cherry juice in this. We want the taste of cherry in the cherry itself, but once we wash them off, I would put them in here with the brandy. And they have been sitting in there for the better part of the day, and they're going to stay in there until tomorrow evening when we're actually going to finish this drink. Because remember, this whole thing has to freeze. Okay, so we've got a mixing glass. We've got Rittenhouse rye. It's cracked open, a new bottle, and just an ounce. We are going to add to that an equal amount, that is an ounce of rum. There we go. Add to that an ounce of sweet vermouth. Cabana Antica. From 1786 this stuff was originally made. I mean, not literally this bottle, of course. And we're going to sweeten it up a bit with a 1/4 ounce of Rio, Ohio maple syrup. There we go. Let's not get overboard with that. 2 dashes of Angostura. 2 dashes of orange bitters. I like this stuff from the Bitter Truth. Now, saline solution. I prepared this earlier. This is, I made a batch with like 100 milliliters of water and like 2.5 teaspoons of salt, and just dissolved it together. It was fine. And I am going to put exactly 5 drops in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we will finish it off with an ounce of distilled water. Blend this very well. So what I've decided to do is make enough for 3. After all, if I'm going to have to wait until tomorrow, I want to have more. So I've tripled the amounts, obviously, and I'm going to pour them into this piece of Tupperware, or whatever to call it. Close it up. I'm going to stash it in the freezer, and then 24 hours later, we're going to have a fantastic drink in our hands. Welcome back. It is now a day later, as is clear from the fact that I'm wearing a different shirt. And here is the drink having been in the freezer all night and all day, all today. Obviously, it is not frozen solid, nor would it be. There's too much alcohol in there for it. But look what, oh man. What it does do is it causes the maple syrup that's in it to get a little bit thick, and it gets some viscosity to it, which is central to the mouthfeel of the drink. So I'm gonna pour it into, I've made enough for several, so I think I'm gonna have one drink tonight, right now. At least right now, maybe later, who knows. But I'm gonna pour this in here. But before I pour it in, I'm going to take one of these specially prepared, wonderful Luxardo cherries, washed and soaked, marinated for at least a day and a half in brandy. And now I pour this on top. Oh. Wow, it's a thing of beauty. So here it is, the Marble Room Manhattan. It smells delicious. That is the drink I had in Cleveland, and boy, I loved it then and I love it now. Thank you, Chris Jew, for sharing this recipe and letting me make this video. To all of you who are watching, if you can make it to Cleveland, to Marble Room Steaks and Raw Bar, please do it. You'll have a fantastic meal, great service. It's a gorgeous place, and they make fantastic drinks. And until next time, cheers.